time. We don't have a lot of it.
This boss sucks balls, and it's just because ice physics exists. It's just the ice physics. Oh my fucking god.
So, what do we do?
No. Okay. All right. Yeah. Yippee. What the shit?
Try to make the most of it, right?
I didn't pause. It's supposed. As soon as you hit X, it's supposed to pause the thing.
So answer me this. Why am I playing this game?
Why? I'm literally standing on top of the phone. I hate this.
BLiNX the Time Sweeper released on the original Xbox back in 2002, and it is one of my favorite childhood games. So I thought, hey, I want to talk about it in the month I was born. However, I am roughly 4 months late. Regardless, I put BLiNX on my Xbox One and, oh boy. For the story, there is none. Well, that would be sort of a lie. There are 2 cutscenes in the whole game. The beginning one, which to be fair hooked me at the very least, starts out with, I assume, BLiNX talking to us in some sort of language, and then showing us around what appears to be a metal clock building factory, aptly named the Time Factory. He explains that they make time and deliver it to other worlds. When a glitch in time happens, eventually they turn into a time crystal, then a time monster. So it's BLiNX and all the other cats' jobs to clean up the time crystals before they turn. But, the Tom Tom gang has, in their words, broken time and started stealing all of the time crystals, essentially just causing chaos in that world. They do it to make profits in the other worlds, but this time they've stolen it in massive quantities. But they also stole the world's princess, which BLiNX instantly falls for. But another problem has arisen. The time monsters are also too plentiful to the point that they will explode and destroy the world. So, the mother computer says they're going to cut off access to that world, but BLiNX goes ahead and charges forward, ignoring the supervisor's words, and dives right in to save that world. Now the next cutscene is right before the final boss.
This is like the second cutscene. Yo, time boy.
And it's just watching the Tom Tom gang and the princess form the final boss. Then, the final cutscene is after you beat the boss. BLiNX states that time has started flowing again, the people turned into crystals will reappear again, and says goodbye to the sleeping princess. She wakes up as he jumps into what I believe is to be a goal gate and tries to get to him. But BLiNX arrives back in the time factory to a hero's welcome and the world not being cut off. That's all that it is. Roll credits. But wait. An adorable moment happens at the end, which I will just let play. Now we have arrived at the actual end. It was pretty lackluster of a story overall. That is legit the whole story. And if I'm going to be fair, I like Mario, and that is essentially what New Super Mario Bros. Is as well, in terms of its story. But Mario doesn't give a bunch of, this is a time factory, we deal with all of this, and then boom, world, we're gonna die. It doesn't preface with much in New Super Mario Bros. It's just Princess got stolen by Bowser, or Bowser's kids, go get her. So I expected a bit more out of BLiNX because of how much they set up. But if that's how they went with it, Mario is mainly for the gameplay, so how's BLiNX's? The gameplay is super simple. Hold B to suck in trash, tap B to shoot the trash at the time monsters. Time crystals will spawn on the field and after you defeat the monsters. Picking up 3 of the crystals will give you a power up depending on the shape, picking up 4 will give you 2 of that power up. and not getting 3 of any kind will result in nothing. Blue moon is pause, green diamond is record, orange pyramid is fast forward, yellow star is slow, and purple what the fucks are rewind. Pause pauses everything but you, fast forwards everything but you, yellow star slows everything but you. You get the point. But essentially that's really simple, right? Well, let's get into the meat of the worlds and how they interact with them, because worlds 1 through 3 are great, 4 is meh, 5 to 6 are a slight step up, then 7 exists, and 8 is pretty mid. So for this video, we will be going world by world to explain how I felt while playing it, and overall things I like and majoritively dislike about the game in total. So starting with World 1, it's your basic starting level. There's nothing wrong with it. It shows you the basics of the game, gives you the easiest monsters, then you pretty much leave. Same thing in the next 2 levels in the world. I did, however, get this glitch. What? And it only happened like 2 more times my whole playthrough. We then reach our first boss with a banger theme. Oh damn, it's which more on music in a later section, but he's pretty simple. He just shoots trash at you, jumps around, has some invulnerability states after you shoot him, and overall, it gets you started out. Now the second world rolls out, and it introduces you to more time-oriented puzzles. Using rewind to build the bridges to right before they fall apart, using slow to slow down a roulette to get what you want, pausing, moving trash in order to suck it up. It also gives us bombs, which are my most favorite and least favorite thing in this game. You can suck up bombs in 2 different states, dormant and active. When shooting a dormant one, it'll explode after a few seconds in a big area, but shooting an active one has a shorter fuse, and there's a third one, but we'll get to it when it's the only time it shows up in the entire game. Allegedly. There are new enemy types, and oh, it's the Tom Tom Gang. Now, the Tom Tom Gang is weird, and I want to get them out of the way since we're in World 2. Here's what they do. They appear from the ground when you're near a bunch of treasure and run around. You can't kill them, I believe. I was never able to, so I don't entirely know. However, they just sort of run into the wall and disappear in an invulnerability state. And this happens in every goddamn world without fail, for no reason at all. They just appear, and you hit them, and they run. That's about it. There's what's been classified as a spy, but nothing comes of them. Then you see the leader of the Tom Tom Gang fly around with the princess at the start of some levels, or in the middle of them. I just want to know what was the point of the inclusion of them in the levels if that's all that they do? Since there's really no story with them besides, hey, we're in these 2 cutscenes, we did some bad things, we're in the world, I guess. Are they just thrown in here to be some sort of gag? A nod to the fact they're still here? Because, yes, they cause what's going on, but that's all that they've accomplished. Anyway, there's not really that many more puzzles in World 2, so we can move on to World 3, where, at this part of the game, it shows more of its 3D platforming sections. There are platforms in World 3 that you can manipulate with your time powers to put them in more optimal situations that you would like to jump to, and at the same time, you can also use this to your advantage to shooting monsters that are now basically just flying things that don't really do anything unless you get very close to them for whatever reason, and aiming at them from a very far distance can really be screwy with how aiming in this game works. Put a pin in that. But regardless, you can also manipulate how sand flows if you want to reverse time and start traveling back up where it's flowing, and sometimes, hey, you might find a secret cat medal, which in general don't unlock anything meaningful unless you get every single one of them, which you get the TSX-7 Supreme, which is a sweeper that allows you to sweep up everything in the game. Which, why it's behind every single medal, which you would need other sweepers to go get it anyway, and you can only get on the last shop of the whole game before the final boss, where none of the special things that it does matter, including the amount that it costs to get it, doesn't really matter because you won't have that much money anyway by the time you think you can get it, is baffling. But if you want some figurines or a song and a remix song, that the remix version is really good, go ahead, because that's really all it's used for the cat medals. Moving on from cat medals, we can go back to the actual level itself, and you can manipulate a lot of the things in these levels with your time powers, but majority of them are not entirely useful except for little secrets. Time manipulation is better used for getting better situations for yourself against enemies. And when you reach World 4, that's when you realize there's a 10-minute timer in every single level in the game.
You only have 10 minutes? Okay.
I have a singular question. Why? We'll get to the world in itself because it plays into it, but why? What is the point of a 10-minute timer? I don't get it. You have secrets for us to find, monsters for us to beat that we are forced to beat in order to complete the level, and a level to traverse that's bigger than 10 minutes sometimes without rushing. Then you drop 2 new enemies that I absolutely do not like, a big blob and a door monster. However, up until now we have also not discussed the monsters, so let's get that out of the way. Starting with the blobs, I have no idea any of the monsters' names, so we're just going off their most generic descriptors. These blobs take 1 hit and attack you by jumping at you. Their variants either have more health or are spiky and roll at you with also more health. They're pretty easy to dodge and shoot. Then you have the trash wizard, which just shoots trash at you if you're close enough. Same thing with the octoballoon. Then a frog that can be killed the normal way of shooting trash at him, only from behind, but by making him eat a bomb, you can kill him faster. Then there's a guy that tunnels through time, I assume, or just the ground, and attacks if you're right above him. Pattern is slightly emerging. Then we get to the 3 in this world. I noted earlier I didn't like 2 of them, but there are 3 new ones. A tiny dragon that turns itself into a tornado and holds you in place. It also restricts you from using time powers. I wrote in my script, not too bad. However, that is incorrect. A lot of the time, it can be horrendous if it holds you in the wrong position. Then there's a door, a literal door that you cannot pass unless you beat him. He takes 3 hits and has a really weird animation to go with it, because if you hit him over an edge, because he flies, he'll go back to the door, but you won't know unless you leave and go back to the door. Other than that, he takes 3 hits and is quite annoying that you can't get around him in any other sort of way. Then there's a blob. Why does he take like 30 hits in order to take down? He has a very short invincibility state, thank God. However, he still just takes so many hits and just moves forward trying to hit you. And he shows up like 4 more times throughout the game. But after you take down the blob, the real monster shows up and is just 1 hit. However, I don't know what happens if you just leave him there, and I elected to not find out. Now, in order to leave the level, you have to defeat all of the time monsters and traverse the world. Traversing the world before World 4 was fun and not much of a hassle, but from here you start to feel bad, for lack of a better term. Generally, before this world, you were just jumping forward, jumping a little bit weird, moving around, not really using the side flip or the back flip in this game, which, for whatever reason, wants to activate when I'm not wanting to do a backflip or a side flip. It's probably snapshotting the exact frame that I'm hitting the A button, then moving the stick in a direction, expecting BLiNX to just jump that way, but it's happened so often that I have no idea. Later on in a boss fight, it becomes the worst fucking thing ever.
Oh, I love you.
Dude, backflipping is just so pointless! But then again, sometimes it just works brilliantly. But once it happens, you're stuck in that animation, regardless of if it's your first or second jump. So you have to wait until it's done in order to do something, so if something happens during it and you can't do anything about it, even if it's your first jump, so you get hit. More on specific bosses later, so for now we can move on to World 5 because that's all there is to World 4. It's really nothing else, just a real pain in the ass to traverse. And more on side flipping and back flipping later because, oh boy. I realized I didn't actually explain the world and just kind of moved on. So future me here, you know, almost a year after I recorded the original audio, is here to rectify that and without my YouTube voice-ish. World 4 is long. Possibly the longest length of levels out of all the worlds. World 4 has many roadblocks during each level or forced quote-unquote puzzles. It also restricts you for like 80% of each level to only use bombs, which themselves become finicky to use. I used to like them, now I don't. Bombs explode on contact with the enemy, and if they miss, they hit a wall or the ground, it'll take a second for them to explode. So you have to be a fair distance away for a lot of the time in order to use them, and with the aiming that I discussed later, it blows ass. Regardless, the lengths of the levels, the enemies, and the balloons you suck on to carry you also take a bunch of time. And in the footage earlier, it took me roughly 30 seconds to get to the goal gate at the end of the level. This is the only world that does this, and I had a close call completing the level twice. The rest are fine, honestly. Not even really that much to complain about. Anyway, back to past me in the original video, because I'm almost done with editing it. Yep! World 5 is pretty bog standard middle of the game stuff. Add some more platforming mechanics, you use your time powers to help you out, or just be able to clear it in general. More on that in World 7. World 6 is pretty mid. It had new platforming mechanics with slightly janky minecarts, but overall it wasn't that bad, except for the 10-minute time limit and the new enemy, which I give him the name Flame Fuck, which is just a blob but with a projectile. He takes just as much trash but is deadlier because of his projectile that just instantly goes to hit you. Why? Where is the natural enemy progression? From 2 to 3 hit enemies that generally just do the same thing over and over again, to, hey, here's a 12 hit guy that shoots instant projectiles at you. Why? Along with having to deal with jank jumps in the level itself, they're not that bad, but they're still jank, which doesn't make them that good. You just don't want to play for a while. Moreover, some of the collisions are just jank as well, but again, they don't mainly affect you unless something really stupid happens. Now, the worst world in the entire game, World 7. In all honesty, it should just be renamed Hell. This world is the absolute worst. From the very moment you set foot into it, you'll realize that you're skating on it.
Hopefully this stage is a lot better. It's not.
The entire world and the fucking boss arena is all ice physics. Not only that, the very first enemy that you encounter is a new enemy, and it's a suicide bomb. Whoa. Who designed this? Moreover, all of your momentum stops once you jump. It feels wrong. And finally, if you don't jump for a while and you go max speed whilst you're skating, you just trip over. Why? This world is a hellscape. Having to defeat monsters whilst aiming, not having fucking momentum, and traversing in time of 10 minutes in an entire ice physics ridden world is not fun. But then we get to a roadblock, literally. I fumbled the ball when it comes to understanding the first part of this level, I will fully admit that, but requiring me to have certain time crystal powers before entering the level as well is also weird. I still haven't figured out my feelings on this and whether it's good or bad. I just don't know. Mainly because in platformers or adventure games, it's generally developed where you have what you need in the level itself, whilst this level requires you to have at least 3 rewinds and 2 pauses before you even enter the level. Which in terms of this game, it kind of makes sense to a certain degree, because you have puzzles, or this thing needs to go back in time, so gather a power up to manipulate it. Quote unquote puzzle. But then again, just giving us all the time powers that we need would be broken, because then we could just keep using it on enemies over and over again. So we'd have to get it from the monsters, but when defeating the monsters, it might not give us the ones that we need because they drop different crystals each and every time. And also picking them up feels jank because the crystals' hitboxes are kind of stupid big. Without going further on them, they needed a system to give us powers, but not making us overpowered for the whole game. So this is the solution, I guess? I don't know if it's the right one based on how this level is designed or how the whole game is designed. I'm not a game designer yet, but what mainly irritated me the most was what I got through aforementioned fumble, only to realize I needed pauses to kill a monster. So the solution was go back to previous levels to farm pauses and rewind power-ups in a 3D action platformer with levels. Nevertheless, I did that and beat it while still dealing with ice physics, blobs, door enemies that lead to a door that needed a power-up to get through, and another huge-ass suicide bomber. This level sucks, the whole world sucks, shit just sucks. In my notes on my script, it says, I've only come to the realization now that I was very lucky I had already had the power-ups in previous levels that I needed in order to complete them as well. Mainly record to copy myself and hit a button. And if I didn't have it, the level is incompletable unless I had it. Smile. So form your own opinion on that if you play the game, and if you don't, take my word for it, hopefully, because that's where I'm going to leave that and move on to World 8, and I'm going to let this Reddit screenshot depict the entire world, mainly because I agree with it. But every world has its theme and its mechanics, and it's bullshit. Some were good, some were horrendous, and some just needed to not be in the game at all. But going through all of the worlds, we can now speak about their bosses. Alright, boss 1 is bog standard. He jumps around then shoots trash at you. So, you shoot him. Simple. Boss 2, you feed him trash to make him big so that he turns slower, and you can shoot him in the ass. Or you can use time power-ups to stop his movement, and then you shoot him, which applies to pretty much all the bosses unless they're in an invincible state. Boss 3, you stand on a thing, the boss will come from below to eat you, dodge him, and shoot him. Pretty much it. Boss 4 is boss 1, but harder and the platforms change. Run around till you can shoot him pretty much. Boss 5 is a blob that shoots out other blobs that come to attack you. First you defeat the other blobs, then you can attack the main blob. These 5 bosses are straightforward and fine. All of them test your knowledge of the places you were just in and the enemy types that you know. Now, these next 4 have the title of, Why Am I Still Playing This Video Game? Boss 6 is boss 2, but more annoying. Instead of having alcoves to stand on and feed him, you have to wait for him to shoot trash at you to shoot him with. In this boss, it feels like the only time I can hit him is when I use time powers. Main reason is because the opportunities for attack are low, and if you don't shoot its hitbox correctly, he auto-turns to you and consumes the trash. Then you have to play Ringer on the Rosie some more, or dodge an attack from him. So, time powers are your best bet, but the bosses themselves don't really give you a lot of time crystals. Generally, it's only 4 at the beginning of the game, but at this point, we need more than 4 hits. Plus, if you pause a boss and then hit them, their invincible state starts. Then you can't hit them again until the power runs out. With a rewind, you can hit the boss, but now they stop full rewinding once you hit them and go forward in time from that point. So there's caveats to using the time powers to hit a boss as well, but it doesn't help that the bosses are generally very stingy with when they can be attacked, including that the stage also falls down in any small lip higher than the current plane that you are standing on can cause trash to halt entirely when you shoot it. It's very annoying. However, once you kill him, you go and try and get all your gold that disappears for whatever reason after a certain amount of time that's very little, then you leave. And for boss 7, I have a message for the person who designed it in totality.
Go fuck yourself.
Why is the whole arena still ice physics? I get the rest of the world was ice physics, but why? Why do I have to sit on a trash structure to bait the boss to attack me whilst the structure has ice physics on it as well? Then, the only way to get trash is to bait it up to shoot at me on ice physics. Then after hitting it twice, you have to stand on one of the separate pieces of the island to have him sink that piece of the island. Or, at random, he'll go up into the air and then send himself at you and you'll have no idea which one he's on until you either physically see him go up into the air, because it plays the same sound effect if he's under or above you. Or you barely see him through the little ice patches on the ground, and then when you get him down to 1 hit and are on your last piece of land, you don't have any time powers to stop him when he gets back up, or he hasn't given you enough trash to shoot at him, or he just wants to be a dick. You want to end everything because you can still die after you beat him, because the camera jerks away right after you beat him, and you could be sliding into doom and not know because of ice physics. This boss blows ass. It's not fun, it's frustrating, and it has ice physics. And God forbid you try to jump in a certain way, instead do a backflip, go right into the ice water, then get rewound to a horrible point just to get hit again. Oh boy, I have so much fun on this boss. Yippee! I hate this boss, and I don't want to talk about it anymore. Boss 8 still sucks. It's not as bad as 7, but it's just a worse version of 5. Same mechanic, kill the blobs first, but this time he has a bunch more invincible states, and the arena is quite annoying to navigate. It takes just a little bit more patience than all the other bosses, and also constant movement, but overall, He still sucks, but he's fine. Now, before I get to the final boss, I haven't talked about the aiming in this game yet. You would expect aiming in the game to be like this. The way the joystick is going is where the trash would go, right? Well, yes and no. What I noticed is that the game tries to help you by giving you a soft aim. It locks onto certain things that you are either close to or is more important, but it causes more frustration than it helps. Like, when I full force believe that I am aiming at a boss, only for it to just not go in the direction I 100% believe my joystick is pointing towards is infuriating. And it either wastes trash on bosses or in the levels themselves that you kinda don't need to waste trash on or can't afford to waste trash on. But in the first few worlds, you don't really notice it, or it's just not that big of a problem at all. But later on, when fighting 3 or 4 monsters at a time, you notice it. You aim at one farther away but completely miss because it slightly drags your aim to a different monster, you'll notice it. But not as much as you'll notice it in this dumb-ass final boss. But first, there's a goddamn boss rush. Oh, that's cute. I can't even lie, that's cute. Why are you sending me to this boss isn't that bad. But no, that's cute, that's cute. Including the boss you just beat to get to this last level. Eat it. Oh, we did so good. We did so good. We did so good. We did so good. We did so fucking good on this one. Why? Who and why? You have to beat all of the hard versions of each boss back to back in order to fight the final boss, including my favorite, the Ice World one. I'm so fucking happy! All on the same stretch of lives you have from the first boss to the last one. And if you decide to leave during any of them, you have to do the whole boss rush all over again, including whilst you're on the final boss. And with that, I'll introduce the final boss. I don't like you. Chrono Horn, plain and simple, blows ass. At the beginning, he takes away all of your time powers, which are needed later on in the fight, and the only thing you can shoot him with is bombs that he spawns. You can only shoot him when he's spawning bombs, and the window of time is incredibly slim. He can also use the time powers on his own in the exact same way that we use them. Slow is the absolute worst. And finally, he causes the bombs on the floor to explode and also introduces a new one. A fucking ice bomb that causes the entire field to become an ice rink where everything still applies of going too fast makes you trip and you have the momentum of AIDS. That's just phase 1, by the way. Phase 2 has them split into 2, and you have to shoot both of them in the span of seconds before God knows how long before they open up again. But also, you hope to God that you hit them in the right spot before your aim wants to aim at the right one whilst you're aiming at the one to your left. Dude! Including that if they use the time powers on you, you can counter them on your own, but you still have to deal with both of them at the same time if you choose not to. Oh yeah, and you can only use time powers if you acquire them from the randomly dropped time crystals to get a power you want to counter their power. But if you get hit during their time powers and get rewound to before their time power activated, they'll just activate it again. What do you do, bro? It's just something like stupid simple that I'm just not seeing. Why is it retrying so? Why is it doing it before he does the slowdown? Oh, what a fucking shithead. Because being hit on this boss just feels different from other ones because it rewinds for a very long time after you get hit for whatever reason. Now, if you've dealt with all of that so far and you get to the third phase and you haven't deleted the game so far, you'll want to at this point. He forms back into one being, but now you can't attack him with bombs. You have to use one of each power-up to take away a piece of his rock armor. So now, if you weren't stocking up before this phase, you have to frantically run around to try and get the powers you need in order to get to the next phase, while he just beelines right for you and can still use his own time powers. Frankly, if you just stock up in a prior phase, this phase is easy as piss. But if you can't because drops are not giving you enough crystals of the power that you need, or they're in such a conglomerate you will have a rough time actually picking out the ones that you want, it's all just a pile of pain. Finally though, we get to the final phase after using all the time powers, and all you have to do is hit him once, with also having to time a perfect jump 3 times in a row to not get clipped by him. Over and over and over again. Then you have 3 seconds to shoot a bomb that may or may not hit him at all and may or may not get clipped by the ground landing in front of you, or may not just entirely miss for no apparent reason. And that'll be it. That's the final thing you have to do in this game that took me roughly 3 hours because it blows. That's not the final thing that I want to talk about, because if you have ever had contact with this game or you know a little bit about it, you know that its soundtrack fucking bops. The music in this game slaps. It's quite unique, and I had a whole thing written on this, but I don't particularly like how I originally did it. Plus, I'm currently learning how to play instruments and music theory to a degree. So all I will say for now is this soundtrack is great. For 2002, it gives a futuristic and weird, for lack of a better word, feel to it all. There's a lot more, such as each area having its own theme and my love for the credit theme. So I'll leave you with the boss theme that I used in a couple of my videos, and I will show you my notes on them. Overall, this game was a treat. It lost its luster over time on me, but I don't hate it. If I didn't like it, I don't have to hate it. It just petered off real fast and its cracks started to show. But it's manageable if you take your time, and you get rewarded with a sweet ending and an even sweeter soundtrack. I still remember playing this game on my original Xbox as a kid, whilst my parents were generally busy doing other stuff. My dad was at work, and my mom was working as well. So having to entertain myself, BLiNX was always there. Even if I didn't get past the 4th world and kept restarting my saves, BLiNX was always fun, and frankly, I can still have fun with it, even though I have complaints. And with that, the video is over. If you watched this far, thank you. I appreciate it. You can click off now, and if you don't want to hear me ramble, that's cool. Like it if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, and as always, please critique me. I'd want to get better. And I know this video probably isn't as good as my Shovel Knight, King Knight, and the Knight series, as I'm going to call it, but I just wanted to take a look at a childhood game, and I did. But regardless, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I did at least decent with the video as well. As always, critique me down below. I always want it, I always wish for it, I want to improve, and there's a bunch of things in this video I could have improved that I will for the next one. And over the year that I've had this audio on my computer, I think I can analyze something a little bit better now. So the next video that is a review, I will probably be able to do a much better job. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed the video, I hope you enjoyed what I did with BLiNX, and as always, take care of yourself.